Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And I love this guest. I really do love my guest. I think we've made this an annual event because she has so much great knowledge to share that we can't just do it once or twice or three times. Yeah, I think we're up to 6, maybe 7. And so please join me in welcoming back to our program, Jeannette Seibly. Welcome, Jeannette. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am so excited to be here.
I love it. And Jeannette is actually somebody I know in the real world. When I lived in Denver, we networked, we met, all of those good things. So it's always fun to be able to catch up. Well, let me tell folks a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this. Jeannette Seibly is a leadership results coach, talent advisor, and business author with 33 years of experience activating greatness in leaders and companies. I love that. The founder of SeibCo LLC, she delivers practical coaching and solutions that elevate performance today, build legacies that stand the test of time, and support people in empowering themselves to lead with clarity and impact. And of course, I could say a whole heck of a lot more for you with your bio just because of some of the books you've written, but we'll get into some of that. So again, Jeannette, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, there are some people who might not have heard some of your prior interviews. So tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are today and maybe how things continue to evolve.
Well, our focus today that you and I talked about and are going to talk about further is feel the fear and do it anyway. Mm-hmm. There's some of you may recognize the title that as a title of a book by Susan Jeffers. And it's a book I remember back ages ago, like decades ago reading. But it's something that I was, when in my preparation for today's interview, I go, a lot of leaders, entrepreneurs, people who are in a driver kind of position within an organization need support. Mm-hmm. They're waiting to do something. Mm-hmm. They're afraid to take action. And as a result, their legacies are kind of wobbly. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so what you and I talked about is talking about the fear. Because you and I have talked about things throughout our knowing each other, where we had ideas that we wanted to pursue, but it was the fear that kept us from doing that.
Right. Right.
Now, just to be really clear, I'm not a psychologist.
Yep.
I'm not
don't play one on TV.
Make sure I get that in there. Mm-hmm. But again, I am a leadership coach with over 33 years of experience, and along the way, guided the creation of 3 millionaires and have helped hundreds of business professionals get over that fear and move forward. And I've had to do my own as well. So this is something where I have a lot of experience in.
Right. And I think everyone has fear. I don't care who they are. And a lot of them, a lot of people, we hide that fear with bluster, with, and things like that. But you said something, I want to go back to it just for a moment. What we've talked about in the past is bragging about yourself. You mentioned $3 million, things like that. And I'm going to brag on the fact that your podcast 1,176. But how much does fear stop us from even bragging?
Oh, it's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is like our number one culprit. And the problem is fear has a way of hiding itself.
Right.
It sounds really reasonable. Like, oh, I'll start when.
Right. It's not
you and I've had those
perfect
conversations. Like, maybe someday down the road, we're going to go write a book or someday down the road, I'm going to start a podcast. I don't know if you even remember back when you were hesitant about starting a podcast,
Oh, yeah.
where you started a new business, or I've started a new focus with my business, stuff of that nature. And so it sounds very reasonable. And how that sounds to a lot of people is I'll start when.
Right.
And then we come up with this laundry list of what must happen. And again, all that is fear talking and getting in our way of realizing our dream, our goal, the legacy that we want to leave. I don't have enough information. Well, information's pretty easy to get these days. And I realize some of it's false.
Right.
A lot of it's false. But, there's a lot of people out there that can help you. And then my favorite is I'll be ready when.
When the stars align.
The stars align. I get permission from my boss or my family. It's really heartbreaking to me. Or when I get that promotion, or when I get that pay increase, or when I move or retire. I mean, there's such a list of things that we allow to get in our way.
Right.
And I think one of the things that really helped drive this home for me is a former neighbor. Her first name was Bessie. She's 92, and she passed away. And in her obit, I was so touched and inspired by it, because in there it said her number one legacy is her family. Her number two legacy was she used to work for General Motors and would help, and just loved helping people buy their cars. And then the third one is she had groups that she was part of that she made sure that she was an integral part. She willingly participated to make sure that that group was moving forward. And those were her three key intentions in life, and she fulfilled on them.
I love it.
That's a legacy.
It is. It is. And I love this. You've got a saying, and it says, legacy doesn't wait for courage. It's shaped by the moments you move forward anyway.
Yep.
And I think that's so true. And it's, it's funny. We were talking a little bit too about the fact that as we get a little bit more mature, we really start, right? We start looking at things like this. What is our legacy going to be?
Yeah.
And, did we let fear stop us? And okay, why is fear still stopping us? And I think one of the things is, fear is that little thing up on our shoulder, right? That's protecting us. It doesn't want us to get hurt. It doesn't want us, and that probably comes back from when we were little, and parents, teachers, whoever said, oh, Jeanette, I don't think you should do that. And they were worried that, something good, or bad might happen. So they meant well, but, that little voice just kept going on and on.
And it doesn't stop when you get older.
Right.
I mean, we continue to overthink. We continue to want it to be perfect. Well, I have to have X, Y, and Z. Like you said earlier, the stars have to align. Well, no, they don't.
Right.
And they never will, to be honest, but okay. But I think our favorite is procrastination, because there's a lot of go-getters out there today. There's a lot of people with ingenuity that I am just in awe of, that are in their 20s and 30s doing things that you and I couldn't have even imagined when we were that old doing. And again, they're not procrastinating. They're getting out there and doing what they need to do. But they're also learning as they go along, and they're very open about it. Those that are successful are very open about it. And then my favorite is when people come up with reasons why not, is I'm too busy.
Right. Oh yeah. I don't have time.
I don't busy. I got all this stuff to do. And what that is a keyword for you're not managing your time.
Right.
Or you're busy doing things that really are of no value to what your goals are, what the business requires. And there's also another saying that you probably will snicker at, called, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person.
Right. Yeah. And it is one of those things where we just find so many excuses, and of
Good
course,
at it.
yeah, we've been doing it our entire lives. Thinking way back, well, I'm not gonna, when I was in high school, my mother thought that it was really good for me to be in every sporting event I could. Now, I am not athletically inclined. But I did. I mean, she was a very powerhouse woman. But it was, well, I can't go out for track because I'm not that fast. I can't, I had all of the, and really what was going on, all of the things was, what if I make a mistake? What if I trip over the line, which I was known to do, and fall flat on my face, right? And then what if people laughed?
And you would be humiliated and embarrassed.
Yes. And so then it was, well, I'm just not good at it. And this was long before people talked about, self-fulfilling prophecies and manifestations and all of those things. But yeah, I mean, it was much easier to just go, no, I'm just, or even, the other thing, they're better at it. And so, that's
I
okay.
can never be as good as they are.
Yes, and I think, I think we see it a lot in families, right? Where an older sibling is really good at something, and so now I'm an only. But yeah, so you always, because teachers are always, well, Mark was so much better at this than you are. Well, I'm not Mark. I mean,
Exactly.
but yeah, and that's, the fear thing also becomes that comparison thing.
Yes.
And do we ever, well, first of all, we don't want to seem so selfish or egotistical is maybe the better word to say we're better for most people. I mean, yeah, there are, people who have no problem with that. But
There are. It's
yes.
sad.
But yeah, we don't want to say I'm better at this because we think people are going to go back to judging us again.
And they will.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they will.
And the thing is, and especially when we were young, and now that we are a little bit more mature, we realize we're not the same as Mark and Sue and Bob and Bill because we're all different people.
And we all have our unique talents and
Yes.
skills and
Mhm.
traits
Mhm.
and dreams
Mhm.
and goals.
Mhm. Right.
There's no two people alike, even on the planet.
Right. And who'd want to be? I mean, that's the thing. It's always interesting when you see like identical twins, right? That
Right.
dress the same. Look, you don't know who they are. And which one is which. And I always thought that was sad. Yeah, it's kind of funny, because they can't, you can't tell them apart, but they are two separate people. And we shouldn't be putting them as, because they get lumped into being a person, right?
Exactly. And if you actually took the time and talked with them, you would find out they're actually quite different. But we don't take the time. We judge the outer as opposed to look at the inner.
Right. I grew up with a set of twins, and John Paul and John Charles. So you just said John, right? And I mean that was, and I think that was maybe part of their mother's thought process was, if she just calls one name and one of them will come. And they usually went by both names. I mean, and so they tried to differentiate themselves. But if you just said, "Hey, John," one of them would respond. But yeah, we are unique, but we're afraid of embracing that uniqueness.
We are, and I think let's go a little bit deeper into this. Again, I've done a lot of work with this and with legacy, and as you said, with the brag books, I have 5 of them I published over the years. And the biggest fear that I find and that you'll see out there in, the AI world or whatever world, wherever you get your information is that a lot of people don't feel psychologically safe.
Mhm.
It could be the boss, it could be the company, it could be the kind of profession they've chosen,
Mhm.
could be where they live, could be the doctors that they use if it's a health concern. I mean, there's a lot of things where people don't feel
Mhm.
safe,
Mhm.
and yet that fear keeps them from going up and pushing past the
Right.
edges.
Mhm.
And there's another one that I find that happens a lot is that people feel alone,
Mm.
like they don't belong.
Mhm. Mhm.
I remember a client, um, he told me a family member had asked him, "Don't you ever miss not being part of the family and getting together with the family?"
Mhm.
And the guy said, No. And what he didn't say, because he didn't want to create a brouhaha, is that, looking back, he goes, every time I have left in the past, I feel diminished
Mhm.
and I feel emotionally
Right.
beaten up.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so a lot of times people just give up. It's
Mhm.
like, you can get, if you're going to be a black sheep, go be the
Mhm.
black sheep with
Right.
family. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And then again, there's a fear of making the right choices. It's like, what
Mhm.
is my purpose in life?
Mhm.
What is my true
Mhm.
calling? And
Mhm.
sometimes get people so caught up in that
Mhm.
perfect world
Right.
that doesn't
Mhm.
exist that we, again, fail to move past that fear, because it is a fear
Mhm.
of, yeah, you might make a mistake.
Mhm.
Yeah. I did that when
Mhm.
I moved from Michigan to Colorado years ago.
Mhm.
Bought a condo,
Mhm.
thought it was really a great condo
Mhm.
for the first few months. And then it became the condo from hell.
Mhm.
And so I finally sold it. I sold it
Mhm.
at a loss.
Mhm.
And, looking back, it's like, but look where I live now. I
Right.
live in a much better
Mhm.
place,
Mhm.
a nicer place. And again, things can happen like that
Mhm.
if you're willing to move past
Mhm.
the fear.
Mhm.
Now, fear isn't going to go away.
Right. And
You
it's
can have all the
healthy.
mantras you want, and that
Yeah.
fear is going to just
Mhm.
say, I'm
Mhm.
sitting here waiting for
Mhm.
you.
Right.
But it's listening to it in such a way that when you hear it,
Mhm.
know something for a fact. Fear does not show up if you're just sitting there doing nothing.
Right. There's no reason for it to.
Exactly.
Mhm.
It's for those of us
Mhm.
who are take
Mhm.
charge, or those of us who
Mhm.
have goals, or those of us who really are committed to our
Mhm.
legacy of moving forward.
Mhm.
And yeah, that fear's going to talk. And
Mhm.
yes, it's going to sometimes be really, really loud.
Mhm. And mean.
Oh,
You're too stupid to do this. Why would you think that you could do that? Why would you think anybody would buy your product? Whatever it is, and somewhere somebody said that to us is,
yes.
usually what happened. And and I don't think there's a difference between men and women. I mean, if anything, I think men are told some of those things more than girls. But yeah, we need to maybe not then, but now we need to go, well,
I love it.
you know?
In fact, I know I have clients who, have gone through a couple different
Mhm,
jobs.
mhm,
We're talking high level
mhm,
jobs. And,
right, mhm,
it's like once they find that they get that it's not just
mhm,
them, it
mhm,
was their previous
mhm,
employer, they do what you just did. Like,
mhm, right, yeah,
so there.
mhm, yeah,
And you
yeah,
should be
mhm,
thankful
mhm,
that you're no longer
right,
having to put
mhm,
up with the
mhm,
BS, and that
mhm,
you're able to now move on, but move on with the
mhm,
understanding that it was your time
mhm,
to move on.
mhm,
And instead of
mhm,
cycling and staying in
mhm,
place
mhm,
and getting upset with yourself,
mhm,
move on.
right. It's interesting. One of the things we hear a lot of people say is, if you had to do it over again, would you do that? And and I usually respond, yes. I might not have liked it, it might not have come, but I hopefully learned from it. And whatever it was, it made me who I am today.
Exactly.
I've had people who have even said, hey, if you could go back and not have cancer. Oh, well, that's really pretty icky, right? But it has made me who I am today. So I'm
A
okay with
dynamo.
it.
You're a
Yeah.
dynamo.
Yeah. And so, Yeah, I wouldn't undo any of it. And I told somebody one time, I said, as long as somebody didn't die, it's okay. But yeah, I've learned from everything. And some of them really were painful, right?
Yes. And
The
hard and
first big
difficult.
breakup, the first time you got fired, right? Because those little voices really started chattering then. But then like you said, you learn, well, maybe that wasn't the career for me, or maybe it was them and not me. I think that's one of the big things to remember is a lot of times it really has nothing to do with you.
But I think that's something that we're just learning now,
Hmm.
because back in
Hmm.
the 80s and 90s, when
Hmm.
you and I were just getting
Hmm.
started in our careers, um, people did rely
Hmm.
on, well, what did you do to cause it?
Right. Hmm.
And it's like, and then you have to look within and
Hmm.
try to come up with a
Hmm.
reason why,
Hmm.
as opposed to maybe I was just being me
Right.
and the other
Hmm.
person had a
Hmm.
hard time
Hmm.
because they saw themselves in that, but are unwilling to acknowledge it or in a position
Hmm.
to do what we call the
Hmm.
blame game.
Hmm.
But,
Right.
that doesn't help us. That doesn't
Mhm,
help us move
mhm,
forward.
mhm,
In fact, I think what it does is entrench us more
mhm,
into the fear
mhm,
of why we are unable to
mhm,
move forward.
mhm. Right. And your story about the guy who doesn't go to his family things anymore. You know, eh, eh, they were bullies.
Yes, they were.
And they were bullies out of fear, right? I think that's the reason why somebody is a bully. They're afraid of whatever, and so they go to an extreme. And so yeah, it wasn't his fault at all. They just that was them. So it's and especially with family, you hate to think, well, maybe,
Yeah.
but sometimes it is. I mean, my mother, she's been gone 2 years. She was a bully. She really was a bully. And when I came to the realization that, what she said to me was more because of her own insecurities than having anything to do with me, then life got better. But I remember it was really interesting because at her funeral, several people came up to me and said, "Your mother was so proud of you. She talked about you a lot." And my thought was, why the hell couldn't she have told me she was proud of me? And whatever reason, I mean, she would have, if you'd asked her, she would have said, she was making me stronger. Oh, okay.
Or wiser or more aware,
Right,
whatever
right.
it was they came
Mhm,
up with.
mhm,
But a lot of times, and I've been doing a lot of work
mhm,
on this with my own books.
mhm, mhm,
I have a set of a series coming out
mhm,
probably later in the year, um, on families,
mhm,
because
mhm,
family traditions,
mhm,
pathologies are
mhm.
handed down
Yes.
generation to
Mhm,
generation.
mhm,
And a lot of people are not aware of that.
mhm,
And they either become bullies or they become the black sheep if they're
mhm,
willing to stand up and say, hey,
mhm,
this doesn't work.
mhm,
But unfortunately, it doesn't stop the black
mhm,
sheep from a new fear of,
mhm,
okay, the family isn't
mhm,
safe.
mhm.
So how do I move on and
Right.
out and
Mhm.
forward?
Right. And of course, we're raised to think the family is the safest place. So if I
Exactly.
don't feel safe there, back to what we were saying before, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. Because blood is not,
Hmm.
blood may be stronger, but
Hmm.
it doesn't often also
Hmm.
provide common sense.
Right, right. And we kind of joke that you're not a therapist because you're not, but some of these issues do need therapy.
Yes, they do.
One of the things, that I tell people is sometimes the absolute strongest thing you can do is to ask for help. And because we don't like to do that either, because that comes back to fear. What if they tell us no?
Exactly.
What if they ignore us? What if they don't take us serious? Right? How many times have we, say in an office environment, you've told somebody there's a problem and they either didn't take you seriously because, ooh, how can you say anything about him? He's the greatest boss in the world. Or they turned it against you.
Yes.
And so we just kind of suffer in silence.
And, one of the characters in, I think it's the third or fourth, yeah, the third book. I'm writing them all at one time because writing historical fiction can be
Mhm.
the intricacies and the time period, it's very complicated. So I'm just writing them all at once. I learned that the hard way, where I'd hired this for book 2, I'd hired this editor, and they completely missed an important time period in the first book. And so if I had actually published the book and not trusted my intuition on that, it would have been very embarrassing and would have hurt the credibility of the. And that's something that also I want to talk a little bit about fear, and we can talk a little bit more a little bit later. But sometimes fear can be your ally as well,
Right. I
because
mean,
what it's helping you
we
do
had
is
fear.
learn to
Yeah.
trust that intuition
Yes.
and listen to it, but don't listen to it in such a way that it's the truth.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
okay, because intuition happens in that moment. It's not going to tell you why.
Right.
You need to go look to see why not.
Right.
So that's where I learned the hard way. When I read back through book 1, I thought, oh, shoot, had to rewrite parts of book 2.
Right. Yeah. And,
So-
fear comes from caveman times, right? It kept us alive.
Exactly. Survival.
Right.
Survival of the fittest.
Right. Fight or flight, all of those various things.
Exactly.
And, and so, yeah, I mean, and so I think that's the thing. And you mentioned it, we should not ignore fear.
No.
It's going to be there. It's what keeps us healthy. Maybe it does keep us from putting our hand on the hot burner, or, saying something to your boss that maybe you shouldn't say, things like that. I mean, fear really is something that is there to help you, but you have to take it for what it is.
Exactly. Or it's like going to the doctor and there's a fear there, and you see somebody doing something, like the nurse doing something they shouldn't be doing. And you, instead of just letting them do what they do, say, whoa, wait a minute, let's talk about this first.
Right.
And again, that's fear popping up, but it's popping up in such a way that it's benefiting you if you listen and then ask questions.
Right. Yeah. I was at my doctor a couple weeks ago, and and I complained about extreme fatigue and pain. I mean, I have chronic pain. And she said, "Oh, I'm going to prescribe," blah, 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 and off I went. And I get home, and she prescribed 3 things, 10 pages worth of precautions and horrible, awful stuff. I read it. I thought, oh, I ain't taking any of this stuff. But
Exactly.
but I sent him a note and I said, just so you know, I'm not going to take any of this. One was an antidepressant. And I was like, seriously? Why? And it was an entire page of it was, this could cause suicide. And I'm like, I'm very confused here. But the thought, so I actually did talk to him and I said, no, this is way overkill. Now, granted, I've had these doctors in my life for over 10 years. And so I'm not afraid to say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take that. And they were, I mean, it's not like they can make me take it. But, but we kind of laughed and said, I don't normally complain. So then when I did, I think they went, oh my gosh. And so, yeah, I said, I'm going to do yoga and taking a leave. That's probably going to do what this is. But how many times are we afraid of authority? The doctor fear. We're afraid of that white coat. We're afraid.
Our boss.
Right. Yeah. The boss
or
is
our
usually.
clients or our coworkers.
Right.
They may not be authority, or even our neighbors. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, fear is very prominent. And what I'd like to do in the time we have left is focus a little bit more on what can we do to move forward.
Right. Yeah.
And like you just said, stand up and speak up. That is just so key.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who they are. Stand up and speak up.
Right.
The other thing that I've had to do for myself is look at my inner strength, my physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and take a stand on what am I going to do to develop that? Because as you get older, one of the biggest challenges is you may not feel as strong as you need to. Or even for some of our younger people today that are so busy, with the thumbs, They don't even know how to talk to people because they're so busy with
Right.
that little
They text you.
gadget in their hand. But it's like,
Mhm.
find out why. Get a
Mhm.
trainer, hire a
Right.
therapist, hire a coach
Mhm.
to guide you
Mhm.
through what you
Right.
need to get
Mhm.
through.
Yeah.
If
Sometimes
you're
you just need to
somebody
talk it out.
exactly, but if you're a Gen Zer,
Mhm.
and my apologies to Gen Zers who are listening, but you do have this tendency, guys and girls, is that you have a tendency to hide behind the thumbs
Right.
as opposed to putting the phone down
Mhm.
or the gadget
Mhm.
and having a voice to voice
Mhm.
conversation. They don't have
Mhm.
the
Right.
experience, they don't have
Mhm.
the credibility in their
Mhm.
minds. And that's where a coach or taking say a Toastmasters class or something of that nature can make a big difference. But it's actually doing something moving forward.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times people just say, well, that's just the way it is.
Mhm.
It is, but in 10 years, when it's become a major reason why
Mhm.
you're not getting promoted
Mhm.
or the business you started
Mhm.
has failed twice,
Mhm.
you might want to look to
Mhm.
say, well, what is that really about?
Right. Right. Yeah, I
And it,
heard I heard just yesterday, a big HR expert, as we're recording this, colleges are getting done, having graduations, right? And they were saying, we're not hiring Gen Zers. They're not ready to work.
that's a nice legal lawsuit waiting to
Yeah.
happen.
Mhm.
So,
But yeah, I mean, they don't know how to interact with people. They don't, like they just don't know how to do all of that. And one of my favorite stories that has come out recently, and I saw it again today in Forbes, so it's a real story. It was a professor who knew that his students were doing everything with AI, and
oh,
so not only did he tell them, you can't do that, they have to do their work in the classroom on a typewriter. I don't know where he got a bunch of typewriters, but he got all these typewriters. And one of the things they discovered, and I just thought this was the funniest thing in the world, is many of them don't have the hand strength to just do regular typewriters. You and I grew up now. Yeah. I mean, I had to take typing into high school.
yeah.
Um, and I mean, that was just, something, but yeah, they don't have the hand strength to be able to do that. But yeah, we've got to and I'm just as guilty of it. I get the report every week on my phone as to how many hours I spent, and I think, ugh. But yeah, put them down, talk to people, or at least look like you're talking to them. Feign interest. And you'll go much further because at some point you're going to have to talk to clients, you're going to have to talk to
Yeah.
coworkers, you're going to have to talk to bosses, and you don't want to just mumble and look at your shoes.
Or you're going to have to stand up and speak up and say, hey, that doesn't work for
Mhm.
me.
Right. Right. Or even
And
better,
if
you're going to
you
have to
don't have,
brag.
exactly. And
Mhm.
if you don't have that confidence
Mhm.
in yourself,
Mhm. Right. Mhm.
that
Mhm.
competence, that
Mhm.
experience,
Mhm.
you're not going to do it.
Right.
And
Mhm.
things aren't going to go
Mhm.
as well as you'd
Mhm.
like it to.
Mhm.
Again, we're
Right.
not trying to be doomsday
No.
to people
Mhm.
listening.
Mhm.
It's just the reality of do some of the things you'd rather not
Mhm.
do,
Mhm.
like learning how to write in
Mhm.
like a handwrite.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
people don't know how
Mhm.
to write in
Mhm.
cursive. Take the time to do that
Mhm.
because writing
Mhm.
actually
Mhm.
engages your brain
Yes.
differently
Mhm.
than trying to
Mhm.
type, even
Mhm.
though you might be highly
Mhm.
accurate. You're
Mhm.
still looking to
Mhm.
see, did I get that
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so if you're writing, when you
Mhm.
open up your brain more, you're going to be amazed at what
Mhm.
else might be
Mhm.
possible that you
Right.
hadn't
Mhm.
considered.
Yeah. And you will see this because I will send you a handwritten thank you. And it's funny, I had a guest on, Elizabeth Cottrell, and that's what she talks to people about is writing with
Yes.
pen or pencil.
Yes.
And just sending, and she said, yes, there are some people that for whatever reason can't, right? But yeah, and so then an email is okay, or you print it and whatever it is. But the fact that you took the time to put pen to paper just means so much different. Right here on my desk, I have a card that I got from a friend of mine who she thanked me for being her friend. And she
Oh,
sent this card. And I mean, I've known her for many, many, many years. But the fact that she sat down and wrote the card, that card will stay here on my desk as long as my desk is here. And so, yeah, we pop off texts, we send an email, we post a comment or something. Spend the 30 seconds and handwrite something. And then, yeah, I know you got to go find a stamp and all of those various things. But
and address an envelope.
I know, and I can't read my own handwriting. I think I've been around doctors too long. But yeah, it shows a different level of thought and caring for the person to do that. That is still one of the things that people talk about when you've done a job interview. Sit down and handwrite a thank you. Aside from anything else, out of 10 candidates, you might be the only one who does it. So you're going to stand out.
Exactly. And that you'll be the one that gets
Mhm.
called back.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen that happen, and that's
Yeah.
something, though, that's been around for a long time, but so few people do it.
Right.
And here's the other thing. So as you move forward, so okay, Jeannette, Deb, I hear you. I'm going to start moving forward.
Right.
But I'm not.
I don't have time.
So-
They go back to those original excuses.
Exactly. And they can be even louder now that you're actually thinking about taking this. Here's the thing. Taking one small step a day makes a huge difference. A lot of times we think we have to take a huge step, or the old saying, eat the whole enchilada. I don't like that saying. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? But if you just take a small step, so say, for example, you decide you're going to move to a new apartment or buy a new home. One of the first things you're going to do is say, okay, I'm going to do that. And so you go buy the packing paper. That's one day.
Okay.
Day 2, you buy the boxes. Day 3, you put the boxes together because they have to be taped. Day 4, you take one room, one small section of the room, and you either pack it, give it away, or get rid of it. And if you do it like that, it's not overwhelming.
Right.
You're making progress on something that you say you really want to do. And your excuses aren't so loud because you're only doing a tiny bit at a time. And that creates a momentum.
Right.
Now, just an FYI on momentum is once momentum starts, don't stop. So don't do what I just said and then stop for a month.
Right.
Because then you got to start all over again to get the momentum moving again. And it won't go back to where it was.
Right.
So I always, have these great conversations with somebody and say, oh, let's talk again in a month. I'm like, well, in a month, we're number one, not going to even remember what we talked about.
Right.
But number 2, the momentum will have left. And we're going to have this conversation all over again. And then normally what happens, they fall back into their busyness.
Right.
So again, honoring that commitment is important.
Right.
And one of the things that I just love this, is that a lot of times we say, yeah, but what if it doesn't work out?
Right.
What if I fail? She could. Yeah, you could fail. Remember the condo from where. So, but here's the thing. If you've always wanted to learn how to play golf, or paint a picture, or write a novel, or take on an engineering job that, oh my goodness, I haven't been a manager before, or to go to a new company and become the boss, or start your own business, or be a gig worker. There's a lot of happy gig workers out there.
Right.
You hear a lot of people that say they're not. Try it.
Right. Like I said, as long as nobody dies, it's okay.
Well, take the lessons. So take the lessons.
Right.
You want to learn how to play golf, don't go out there and just swing at the thing, that little ball. Go out and take lessons on how to swing at that little ball so that you actually connect with it and it actually advances forward, not backwards or up to the tall grass. Or art. Like I have a neighbor who, one of the reasons she moved to a place is because of the art lessons that they offer.
Fun.
And she has been diligent in the 3 years that she's lived here and taking every single art class as it's offered. And she's actually become quite good. So my point is, yeah, you'd like to do it. You have a fear that you don't know how or aren't going to be good enough. Take the lessons and do it.
Right.
And then you might come up with, but what if I don't like it? Then stop.
Okay. Yeah.
But like me, when I lived in Michigan, I had to decide to learn how to ski. I really wanted to learn how to ski. Now, I now live in Colorado, where Michigan ski hills would be considered bunny hills.
Yes.
But and it's a little bit harder to learn to ski there because it does get icy. But regardless, I did finally learn how to ski. This is because I took lessons. And I think her name was Linda. This happened so long ago. She was amazing, and she taught us how to stop. Remember psychological
snowplow.
The ocean. No, it was even more than that. I mean, she taught us how to stop. Like, no kidding, stop. And it was amazing that afternoon, people thought I was an intermediate skier.
Wow.
So that later, after doing it, after 2 runs, I went down, turned in my rental equipment and said, I'm done. I haven't skied since.
Yeah.
So my point is, don't be afraid to try it.
Right.
Learn what you need to learn and then say, I'm done.
Right. Yeah, I did that with skiing. I grew up outside of Steamboat Springs, and I cross country skied. I mean,
Wow.
Oh yeah, we loved that. I mean, it was great fun. But I did not downhill ski until I was an adult. And luckily I signed up for classes and, didn't just, venture off. And I spent a whole day with the instructor. And when I was done, I thought, don't ever want to do that again.
Exactly. But at least you did it.
Yes.
You can say, I overcame my fear.
Right.
And I did it.
Yeah.
And that becomes part of your legacy. It becomes part of your being, such that you are no longer so afraid of moving forward.
Right.
We're not asking you folks to go pet rattlesnakes. So this is about really learning how to do things that are stuff you really want to learn how to do, that are healthy, that will make you happy.
Right.
Get over the fear and do it.
Right.
My other fear was, a goal, and I've touched on this already, and, I've talked about this. I am a business author, and I've published 10 books, over 1,000 articles. I write for General Motors, dealership publications. So that's where my focus is. But in my heart and soul, I always wanted to write fiction. And so it took me 20 years, but I finally got my first fiction book actually written.
It's here on my shelf.
And it became an Amazon bestseller for a short period of time. It was like, woohoo. And so now I got books 2 through 6 to complete a series. But my point being is that I learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. But the key that I have found that I myself have to deal with every so often is stop waiting, feel the fear, and do it anyway.
Right. And stop waiting. You mentioned this. Stop waiting for permission.
Oh, big time.
And I think so many people think, well, it comes back to the I'll do it when. Well, I'll do it when so-and-so tells me it's okay. I'll do it when, whatever it is. No, you don't need permission. Now there are some things that you probably, need to talk out with people, things like that. I mean, you're not a silo, but, if you're waiting for permission, you're not going to get it. Or if you get it, it's going to come with rules and, okay, Jeanette, it's okay for you to write that series of books, but if it's not bestsellers, I mean, we don't.
Or if it's about me, or if it's about a family secret, or if it's about,
Right. Yeah. And that comes back to their fears, what we were saying. And I think the problem is a lot of times we set ourselves up for failure. You and I both could have gone to the top of the mountain and skied down with no lessons. that would, I can pretty much guarantee that would have not come out well, and, or maybe it's, like you said, golf. You're not going to go play in the Masters. That's 2 hours from here. I'm not going to go play in the Masters, not without taking the other steps first. It might be that you need the training to do something or whatever it is, but don't just leap in. You're not going to run a marathon, without ever having run to the end of the block. And I mean, you could enter, but you're going to get to the end of the block and you're going to fall over. But yeah, don't set yourself up for failure. And I think that's the other thing is we think, well, if we don't have these grandiose goals, then there's something wrong. No, maybe it is. I'm going to get to the end of the block or make it down the bunny hill. Do they still have bunny hills? I don't know. Anyhow,
I don't know if a rabbit actually uses them, but
I know. I always wondered about that. But yeah, be realistic with what you're doing. And it's still going to be, you're still going to be afraid. Like we said, that's natural. That's protecting us. But the thing is, sit down and figure out, why am I afraid?
Well, but don't sit down and try to figure it out by sitting there trying to figure it out.
Yes, because then you're just going to, the paralysis.
People are doing it way too often now.
Paralysis by analysis.
And particularly those people that I work with now who are 55 plus and they're looking at what legacy do they want to leave.
Right.
I want to think about it. Well, you've been thinking about it already for 20, 30 years. And you don't have another 20, 30 years in many cases to keep thinking about it. So it's actually time for you to, either do it or not. Because if you do nothing with a dream or goal, it will go away, never to return.
Right.
So if you really want that promotion or you really want to learn something like crocheting, or playing a musical instrument, or, throwing a football, do it now.
Right.
Do it now.
Yeah. And you don't know what tomorrow holds. I mean, that's the other thing. I tell people, I really don't want my headstone to say, I wish I would have.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Here's the other thing that I think sometimes gets in the way. I've heard this story before, and I'm sure we could fill it in with any profession out there. But let's say there's a lot of people today who want to write a book, but they compare themselves with C.J. Box or Nora Roberts, and they forget that these two individuals and all well-known, well-loved authors wrote what one of these a woman does. She calls them shitty first drafts.
Yeah,
and
but second and third,
thousands of them. Okay.
Right.
And you have to write the first one. It ain't going to go anywhere. And then really hone your writing skill if that's what you want to do.
Right.
Or if you want to throw a football or you want to get that promotion. There's a thing called skill stacking where like, okay, this is what I've done, but I really want to move over here. Okay, what are the skills that you learn here that you can move over to there and build on? And a lot of people forget that it's life is a process. It's not an event. And I remember a coach years ago trying to tell me that, Jeannette, life's a process, not an event. I go, yeah, I got it, but I want it now.
I know. That's the thing. We want it now.
We do. And but we're afraid of doing the work that gets us to move forward.
Because it's hard. It's hard. And yeah, we whimper and we whine about it. And so then we don't do it, right? It comes back to that.
And then there's this longing, this waiting. Our whole confidence literally just diminishes.
Right. Yeah.
And the other thing to keep in mind for those of you who say, but I haven't made a choice yet. Not making a choice is also
a choice.
And is still fear-based. So just wanted to put that in there for those who say, yeah, but I didn't.
I didn't choose to try for that promotion. Yeah, you did. You chose to not try for that promotion.
Exactly. You made a decision based out of fear.
Right.
And you don't get to continue complaining about,
Mhm.
well, I was overlooked for the job.
Right.
Well, you were overlooked because you didn't throw your hat in
Mhm. Mhm.
the your resume
Mhm.
into AI and say, hey, consider
Mhm.
me.
Right. And I think the other thing is one of the things that, and this is hard too, we don't take responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I didn't get that promotion because I didn't do the work to get the promotion. We're going to blame everybody else.
Yeah.
And sometimes it really is out of your control. But most cases there's something that was, and maybe it was, well, it wasn't realistic to start with.
Or you didn't learn how to brag
Right.
such that
Yes.
people knew what you could do. People
Right.
do
Yeah.
hide behind what they've done. But I remember one time working with a group of executive level job seekers. And we were talking about brag, and they got really upset and angry because they didn't feel that they should have to explain or
Right.
tell or
People
share what they
should
had
just
accomplished.
know.
Exactly. And they couldn't understand why they weren't getting reemployed.
Right. And we got so much in our little brains, we don't remember what other people do. And sometimes we don't even know. I mean, I got a message today on Facebook from somebody, and if somebody I'm just connected to on Facebook, but through the dog show world. And her message to me was, I have been so impressed with what you're doing in healthcare. I thought, well, this is weird. She's my dog show person. So I look at her profile. Holy schmoly, she's somebody I need to know. And so I told her, I said, oh my gosh, I'd love to talk with you more about this. But yeah, we put people in their little boxes, and then we expect that they're, and we forget that they've put us in that box too. So if they don't know that you've been doing this for 33 years, you've written all of these books, one of my favorite things, and I say this to my husband, I can't read your mind, but I expect him to read my mind. Right. And so, yeah, we've got to put ourselves out there. And again, might not come out the way we wanted, but okay.
Yep. So I think the lessons here in our conversation is to remember fear isn't going to magically go away. It's going to stay there, but to befriend it, like listen to it. I sometimes use it, like for my book, the first novel. I said to myself, because I kept putting it off and putting it off. And even my editor said, Jeanette, you don't have another 6 months on this. They were just like, okay. And I said to myself, okay, Jeanette, if you had 6 months to live, would not having published this book be okay?
Right.
And I said, no, it wouldn't, because it was
Right.
really coming from my heart and soul to get it published.
Right.
And so sometimes that kind of fear, like do it now or it won't get done, is okay, as long as you don't go overboard and operate out of fear, because making your choices out of fear can have a backlash to it.
Right. Right. Yeah. And then, like you said, you have to tell people. You told people, hey, I've written this book. I bought a copy for me. I bought a copy for my mother, and I bought a copy for my aunt. It was, but yeah, I needed to know because I'm not psychic, but that's, that is, and I think sometimes, and we've only got, a little bit of time left. So, this is why I have you on at least once a year. We think of brag as a bad word.
Yeah.
It's egotistical, back to all of those things. And no, it's not. Sometimes it's just making sure people know, hey, this is what I can do.
Yeah. And you know what I have found, and I've seen so many people, it just does my heart good. My heart just goes, woo, is when people, particularly young women, learn how to brag. All of a sudden, their world just opens up big time. So I have a fun little story that I'll leave everybody with. She, of course, had her fears, just like you and I do. They don't go away. She's even quite a bit younger than we are. But she was in dance, and she had one studio. And then after learning how to brag, because her excuse or fear was, I'm not old enough. I said, au contraire, you could be 8 or 80. everybody has something to brag about. It's
Mhm.
just moving through that fear, writing it down. I have a system that I use that works.
Mhm.
And so she did. She did the work.
Mhm.
And a couple years go by. I didn't think a lot more about it. And the event coordinator says, Jeanette, I got to tell you about Kaylee. And I mentioned Kaylee's name because I have her permission, and
Mhm.
it's the first story in my book. So, anyway, what she did is she then went from one dance studio to 5.
Mm.
And then people are going, well, that's good. That's nice. And I said, and then I wait for a second
Mhm.
so they can really get this. She is now choreographing dance on Broadway, all because she learned how to brag, worked past the
Mhm.
fears,
Mhm.
and spoke what
Mhm.
she had
Mhm.
accomplished. And
Right.
she's amazing.
Mhm.
She is just amazing.
I love it. I love it. Well, for people who are saying, okay, I need to learn more from you, we'll have your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, but tell us a little bit more about what you do.
So I'm a leadership results coach. I also a talent advisor. I focus on helping business owners and entrepreneurs increase their revenues through their people. I had a young man one time when I published my first hire book who said, Jeanette, I wish I would have met you years ago. And I said, why is that? He goes, I started and lost 3 businesses all because I didn't know how to hire. And what's been really awe inspiring this past year has been the number of clients who are growing, all because they got past that fear of hiring, which can be one of the hardest things to do when you run a business, learned how to do it well, and now have that confidence when they hire that that person is going to actually help them grow and not be a detriment to their growth. And so that's what I do. And of course, I write every week. So I have a couple different, if when people go to LinkedIn, they can, there's a couple different blog posts
Mhm.
out there.
Right. And they're great blog posts. I mean, you have an entire blog post on fear. And I encourage folks to go and look and see, because I also bet that every single person will go, yep, that's me. To some degree or another. I mean,
But when I was writing it, I said, that's me.
right. We write what we know, but yeah, like the yeah, all start when. Oh yeah, we've all said that. I don't have enough information. We really all say that. Or I'll be ready when. hmm We all say those things. And so then of course the key is yeah, then what? And so I encourage folks to connect with you because you are such a great source of information and support.
Thank you.
Well, I maybe we'll have you on before a year has gone by because there's all sorts of things going on. But until we have you on again, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
I do. So think for a moment, 10 years from now, and think back the past 10 years. What will your future self thank you for?
I love it. That is so wonderful. I'm Deb Creer. I've been having so much fun talking with my friend Jeannette Seibly. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.